of my previous vlogs, I sat down with Henk de Velde. Well, Henk is a solo sea sailor who sailed around the world 6 times, risking his life in a boat. And I've talked with him about how to deal with plans and with planning. Well, from the Scrum community I know Jeff Sutherland, who risked his life in airplanes, which in the end evolved into Scrum. So I thought, what will happen if I put Jeff and Henk together and let them talk about, for example, dealing with plans? Well, I did that. So we had a meeting on the boat of Henk with Jeff and Henk to talk about dealing with plans and about risking your life. And there's one part of the talk I especially would like to share with you. So please sit down and enjoy.
Yeah. What do you tell the people who don't know plane, who don't know combat, who don't know emergencies, who don't know big waves around Cape Horn? What do you tell them? Because I get in my talk shows the same kind of question.
I spent some years studying Aikido, a Japanese martial art.
Yes.
And that was very instructive. And you have you're confronted, you're attacked in that, and you have a standard ways of parrying the blow and then turning the energy of the system in your favor. And so in the training and software development, I try to train them in the same way. You know, things are always going to happen, and so you just have to have a standard way of responding that's going to be effective. And you actually, even when you're entering into doing something, you need to be in the motion that's the standard way of responding. Like, for example, in Aikido, you're always taught to lead with an open hand. That pulls your enemy into you, and then you're coming up to parry the blow.
Yes.
So you're starting a software project.
Yes.
Everybody's a friend.
Yes.
You're coming in there, you're having the meeting.
Yes.
And you're walking out of the meeting and something bad just happened. It's coming at you. It's going to take that project down. And you are already in the motion to deal with that and not deluded by an illusory sense of safety. I guess that's the most risky thing that we found in airplanes.
That might be a good thing. So you have the feeling of safety, but it's false.
I call it false security.
False security.
I call it false security.
So we see it in software projects, this false security.
Yeah.
We have a plan, we have a project leader, we have a requirements document. But things go always differently, so it's a false sense of security. How is this in the plane, the false sense of security?
Well, another time where I almost got killed was I'm flying, I was in the back seat of an F4, and in the front seat was the leader of the lead pilot who tested all the pilots in training. So he was one of the best pilots there was. And I was in the back seat because I was one of the best junior pilots. And we would fly together and we would get complacent. And so we're down at low level at 500 feet in Arizona, and we're both looking at the map, and all of a sudden I'm looking at the cactus.
Yes.
And he pulls that stick hard back, and we literally dusted the spikes off the top of the saguaro cactuses.
Yeah.
And we said to each other, we gotta not do that again. You know, it was just so complacent that not only were we capable pilots, but together we were doubly capable, and we trusted that.
There is a false sense of security. I have another example. This was with a crew member as well. You know, not really comparing, but you know, sitting inside together, studying the maps, and studying navigation, talking with each other, and then you know, on Norwegian coast, and then we looked out, and it was a big tanker, very near us.
Yeah.
False, but being alone, I try to avoid this false sense of security. That means as soon as I feel it in my belly that I have to be there, how tired I am, whatever happens, I'm going to lay down there on the hard floor so I don't sleep too long. I try to avoid the false sense of security. And it only happens with very good weather. Because then that boat sails and you sit there, you read a book. Yes?
Yeah.
Then it happens.
Yeah.
Have to be very careful. The single-hander alone have to be very careful with that.
So I think that you need to develop the capability of being relaxed in an environment where bad things can happen
Yes.
at any moment.
Yes.
So you have to be like fully present but relaxed.
Yes.
So that's why martial arts training, I think, is
fully
useful.
present. I read the, you know, the 5 Rings, you know, the book of...
Yeah, the Book of Five Rings is one of my favorite books.
I got it on board. I got it on board. And when I left Japan, I cannot speak Japanese. I've been in Japan now. Then my friends gave me the 5 Rings in Japanese.
Yeah.
I will never give this book away. I got it, you know. I got it
Yeah,
on board.
yeah,
You know, I know nothing about martial arts, but that book,
yeah.
oh, I can understand more and more.
What I found inspiring in the discussion between Henk and Jeff was how they deal with problems and how they deal with danger. I mean, you can have much plans as you want, still bad things happen. What I learned from them, there's 2 ways to deal with that. There's the bad way, feeling secure and enjoying this feeling of security. Well, you know you're in a dangerous situation. Or the good way, make sure you're prepared and you're prepared to change your plans when things come along. Or like David Allen says in his book, ready for anything. But I think Jeff explained it very properly, where he said you have to develop for yourself the capability of feeling relaxed in an environment where things can go wrong any moment. And that's the challenge. But if you're in that environment, you can do something. You can use the energy of the system, like in Aikido, to turn it in your favor. Because when you're already on the move, or when you're already moving, it's easy to go along. And I think that happens in Scrum. Because of the rhythm with the sprints, you're already moving. You're already capable of taking the bad things that happen along by taking them up in the next sprint. So again, you see that even principles from Aikido have found their way into Scrum. But the big takeaway, I think, from the discussion came from Henk. As a solo sailor, he trained himself. This false sense of security is really danger in his place. So when I'm feeling secure, the alarm bells go off. And he challenges himself to not feel secure at any moment, because when he feels it, then the alarm bells go off. And as he said, this false sense of security most of the time happens in good weather. Because then the alarm bells need to go off. Because that's the false sense of security. So, in your job, in your day-to-day practice, how often do you ask yourself, am I really secure? Or am I just feeling secure? Maybe it's time that your alarm bell starts ringing.
This videoblog is sponsored by For Awareness.